Hi Sounders, it's Mick here again. It would be nice to have more than one good day at a time, wouldn't it? We all react differently, but as some of you may have realised, I'm not a man built to play poker. I go up, I come down. The performance in Sheffield didn't continue for me any of the positivity of the previous outing. And that's a frustration. I was really happy after Millwall. I know I showed it, I hope. But I can't hide. And this was pretty awful. It's an immediate aftermath that I can't simply concentrate on in terms of our team's shortcomings at set pieces with games. I can understand John Mousinho making them his focus post-match. The statistics don't lie. We're conceding goals from corners at an unsustainable rate. It's such an obvious weakness, and it will be seized upon by all our opponents and bring us down if we don't work out plans, methods, mindsets and personnel to prevent headers on goal at corners by the opposition. So it's absolutely fair enough for John Mousinho to raise the problem post-match. I'm just going to digress for a moment, Sounders, to remind you that back in the day, managers told us as little as possible about anything to do with our team, in the hope that weakness would be kept secret and dealt with privately on the training pitch. Of course, now every weakness is analysed on video frame by frame by frame. So Mousinho is absolutely right to be open about his team's problems, because we can see them just as clearly as every opposition coach. Coming up today again, I'm irritated, I have to tell you, by Sky Plus, Sounders. Of course it is great to be able to watch away games, but the coverage on Sky Plus is very basic. And personally, and this may well be my own fault because I'm not technically wised up, but I can't rewind on Sky Plus. At any rate, certainly not with any precision. So I can't view over and over again exactly what's going on. So I couldn't watch the corners over and over again to see the detail of Sheffield's free headers. John Mousinho claimed blocking enabled that first goal. And I've no reason to doubt him, but I couldn't track it. I couldn't follow it clearly enough to see. He complained vigorously to the fourth official. And that never seems to do any good. And we don't have VAR in the Championship. And blocking can be, in any case, incredibly sly and subtle. And I'm sure we do it ourselves, Sounders, and everyone does it. So what are we, they, John Mousinho, his team, his coaches going to do? It only gets penalised if a player drags an opponent to the ground, it seems to me, and that offence often rewards the attacking side and results in a penalty. It's a can of worms, Sounders. But somehow Pompey have to stop leaking set piece goals from corners, free kicks and long throws. We're shaky in all those areas. And while I'm being a doomster, you'll see in a minute that I feel there's actually more to worry about than just dead ball defending when I go through our team that played at Sheffield. The positive performance against Millwall didn't in any way seem to survive the long trip north. I'm just not convinced we were as sturdy and resilient before conceding that first goal and going down to 10 as John Mousinho would have us believe. To me, there wasn't enough self-belief from the very first minute. And over the whole game, 4 shots and 2 corners bears that out. So let me run through my perception of each player's performance and see how it matches up with your own, Sanders. Nicola Schmidt, obviously, we're delighted to have him back. And he should shoulder no blame as far as I could see for the goals. But it wasn't a confident game for Schmidt. He seemed to palm the ball down to the ground too often. I mean, that's simply not taking full control of it, and he's going to get caught out in doing that if he keeps doing it. And his distribution was too often unsettled by closing down Sheffield players, and as a result, his distribution was inaccurate and putting teammates in difficulties. Obviously, we're pleased to have him back. I didn't think he had a bad game compared with some. And I'm not suggesting that Joe Bursick should come back into the side, obviously. But he's got work to do. Put it that way. And I'm not sure either about the conceding of these corners, whether he can have a greater effect himself. Possibly he can. I'm not a goalkeeping expert, I suppose. Josh Knight seemed as lacking in authority against Sheffield United as he'd had it against Millwall. He's a big man and he needs to lead the battle, particularly against our set-piece problem. And I'm not convinced he is. And his distribution in this game was also just simply not good enough. We didn't build from the back. We didn't retain possession well enough anywhere on the pitch. And Knight was one of the players guilty in those areas. Regan Poole, well, let me put it this way about Poole. He was better than most the other night. Colby Bishop had an anonymous game. He got isolated, and it was then his inability to run, because he doesn't run the channels, because he's not got that game and he's not got that pace. But it's really got shown up against Sheffield. And just to be fair to him, the service that he received was minimal from his teammates. Adrian Segacic had a much tougher return to the Championship than facing Millwall. I believe he hadn't recovered from that game. It seemed to me he lacked energy. And without that, what does he have? Well, on Wednesday night, not enough. Florian Bianchini, he's an enigma, this guy. He appeared to work hard, but he simply didn't complete his actions. Nothing ever finished successfully. He was always thwarted. So he got on the ball quite a lot, but each time he received the ball, in the end, we lost it for no result. Maybe I'm slightly exaggerating about him, but I feel that's how it was for Bianchini. No threat. And Mark Kosnowski, once again, went backwards from Millwall. Now that can't be considered, therefore, his breakthrough game, which I was hoping it had been. He has to get up to speed in this league. He has the power, but not the know-how. And speed is another thing I feel he might just be lacking a little of. But he's a strong boy. Maybe he can get there in the end. Andre Dozzell does have the know-how. And like Paul, was better than most. Zach Swanson, another who flatters to deceive. He mustn't start thinking he's a nailed-on selection, it seems to me. I may be wrong, but I thought he lost his man for Sheffield's first goal, and he was too slow to react to their third. That's what it seemed to me. I'm just gonna say again, I wasn't able to really study passages of play because of my problems with blooming Sky Plus. But that's what it seemed to me with Zach on Wednesday night. Josh Murphy, I hate to be critical of our best player, but he wasted a lot of opportunities in attacking situations on Wednesday and simply didn't provide accurate enough balls into his fellow forwards. It was a bit hit and hope. Sometimes he just lets it go. Sometimes it sort of lets it go without looking. Of course he's looking. I mean, I don't like to be too critical of him, I say, but you know, if we can't rely on Murphy, we can't rely on anybody. And against Sheffield, I didn't think we could rely on Murphy to get hold of the game and change the game and make a successful raid on what was not a great side. They weren't. I refuse to accept that Sheffield United are suddenly a great side. They're in the bottom three, or they were. And they've had a terrible start to the season, and we were all expecting great things of them. We were expecting them to be in the top six, certainly. John Massinho says they may still end up in the top six. That's possible, I guess. But I'm not accepting that we were beaten by a fine side. We weren't beaten by a Coventry. Anyway, Josh Murphy is the nearest we've got to someone who can win a game for Pompey, and he wasn't anywhere near up for it against Sheffield. Which leaves me with Terry Devlin. Oh dear, Terry, mortified. Obviously, the boy was mortified to be sent off. And once he was gone, we looked beaten. I mean, we hadn't looked like winning the game before he was gone. But after he was gone, all hope left with him, it seemed to me. It was an understandable and brainless handball. Perhaps it was instinctive. I'm trying to think. I mean, I do catch things now instinctively when they fall. Would a defender stick their hand out instinctively, or would they draw it in because they knew they were going to be sent off if they... I don't know. Anyway, it was a bad night for Terry Devlin. And that brings us on to the subs, none of whom were able to claw back much glory in that game. Kirk looked willing, so he blooming well should, but he did look willing. I remember vividly early on when he arrived out there, he made a good run to the far post with Murphy in charge of the ball, and then Murphy blasted it yards over his head. But at least Kirk had got into a position. He'd looked and he'd got into a position. I'm just seizing on little bits of scraps of hope, Sounders. You understand? I'm a drowning man here. Williams, Pack, Chaplin and Minogue went through the motions. That's pretty much all you can say about it. You can tell, Sounders, that it was a really bad night. And you know it was anyway. I don't know about you, but I shall recover for Saturday, because that's what happens to me. I get really high, I get really low. As I speak, I'm pretty low. But I'll be back. I'll be better. In fact, I'll be as happy as Larry, whoever Larry was, Sounders, on Saturday. And I look forward to that. Play up, Pompey.